Hello, everyone. Welcome to Loud and Proud Orlando. It's Monday, December the 15th, 7:15 p.m. Thank you so much for your support. We are live with a busy Monday full of, I think the biggest news has been the signing of Carlos Coronel, which is, I think, about to be announced in the next few days, I'm sure, by the club per Tom Bogert. And we'll discuss that and more. We have a packed pod today talking about Carlos Coronel. It's not Coronel Sanders who's coming, it's Carlos Coronel, by the way, incoming to OCSC. We're going to be also talking about reacting about what Ricardo Moreira said right there on the interview with my good friend Mike Gramajo, as well as we did our first series called Hot Takes, which is going to start this 2026. And we have our first few snippets of that. And we will read all your comments from that. Then we'll dive into the 2026 MLS SuperDraft picks. Anything that has maybe happened within the MLS atmosphere when it comes to transfers, as well as your questions and your input. So thank you so much for your support. We're Loud and Proud Orlando, and I'm here with my good friend John Rollins. What's up, my friend? Good to see you again.
Good, buddy. Sorry to everyone. I was running a little late there today. But we are here and we're going to talk everything that's going on this week. So, yeah, let's start by talking Carlos Coronel, Luis, the replacement goalkeeper. I think we found one.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect this. I'll be completely honest with you. I think it's just like a lateral move, plug and play. I think it makes a lot of sense that he was either going to be, the free agency had a lot of talent in the goalkeeping corps with Coronel, with Dane Sinclair. But I believe that, they wanted to go the route of Coronel because, it's that he has very similar numbers to Pedro. 2025 was his best season, definitely a step ahead of Pedro when it came to numbers. And we'll dive in and dissect those. But I think that for the system that Oscar is looking for, it fits. Also, money wise, it opens up the space, for Orlando City. I mean, I believe Pedro is 1.25 around that. And then he is 550K. And I believe he probably, cost a little bit over that, I'm sure, to move to City, but it's still quite a little bit of savings there for Orlando. And literally is in field is probably not gonna you're probably not gonna see a lot of difference, but I still feel that he ain't. You being a goalkeeper, you also have to understand you have to have a good back line, because whether, he's not going to save every single ball, bro. You know what I mean? But I feel like this is a really great signing. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm excited. He's Brazilian, but Paraguayan, naturalized Paraguayan. He plays for the Paraguayan national team. He's still kind of building a rapport with the Paraguayan team. I think he's only had like maybe 6 stints with the Paraguayan national team. He's gonna be gone a while next year, which brings me into, and we'll discuss that in just a second, but those are my first takes about Carlos Coronel. I think it's a great signing. I think people are super excited. I saw what people have posted online. It's tremendous and great news by the Lions. I think it's a move into the right direction. And what are your thoughts, John, from starters?
Yeah, same as you. I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting parallels with when we signed Pedro. So if you think about, he's an international goalkeeper. He's been playing, Pedro wasn't playing in this league. Carlos has. And, about the same age. We signed Pedro at 29. Carlos is like 28, about to be 29. So we had Pedro from those years when he was playing for his national team in what you kind of call your core goalkeeping years, right? Like it's not like you're 24 to to 30-year-old for the outfield players. For goalkeepers, it's like 27 to like 33 is kind of your peak goalkeeping years, and that's we're gonna have. And every time he comes and plays us, man, like, you know, all the time, how often we're like, oh, Carlos Coronel, like, oh, like we're banging our heads against the wall playing Red Bulls because he just makes these saves, kind of like Pedro would do, but he makes these saves. You're just like, whoa, like this guy's like really hard to beat. I think could continue down that like route of comparing him. I brought up Transfermarkt. They have kind of his stats and the ability to look at stats comparatively. So if we're looking on the left, we have Carlos Coronel, 163 games, and then he had 46 shutouts. Pedro played 161 games in MLS, 45 shutouts. So Carlos has arguably already done what Pedro has done in this league for us. Like, you know, not for us, but the same amount of games, similar kind of output, and he's 28 years old. So not only are you getting a guy who's younger, but you're getting a guy who's got as much experience as Pedro, can do everything that Pedro could do. And also, I think there's that, you know, the other side of Pedro, which we don't like to talk about now that he's gone, but there were errors and there were issues, and there was times where he did stuff that we didn't like. I don't know Carlos Coronel well enough to know, does he have those in his game? I don't think so. We'll talk event like at some point with Andrew from Designated Players, who also covers the New York Red Bulls. So if this sale goes through, we'll get him on and get his kind of in-depth thoughts on Carlos Coronel and what he thinks. But I don't think Carlos Coronel has I don't think he's error prone, right? I think he's a guy that is very level-headed and seems to have great consistency in your back line. And he seems like a good calming presence in the back line. You know what I mean? Like he's like, he'll talk a lot and you see him communicating with his back line, but he's also, they feel like secure when he's back there, you know, and that kind of sense of reliable. Oh, Carlos is in net, I can rely on that. Not so much last year for the Red Bulls, but they had a really, really good defense in 2024. And that was like a peak season for Carlos. So if he can get back to that form, you know, Tom was calling him one of the best keepers in the league. I think it's hard to say, but he's definitely up there. Like, he's a top class.
Yeah, he's definitely a top 5, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, that's all my thoughts. But I think it's a positive, Luis, and I think
100%.
I think this also says that, like, we were speculating with Otero is going to get a shot. I don't see you make this signing and don't play Carlos. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's only coming in to be the starter. So maybe there's a world in which they're going to let, you know, Otero compete and like maybe get some minutes in Open Cup or something. But I struggle to see how you're going to justify Otero over Carlos Coronel when you've got him on the roster.
You're completely right. I mean, I don't think it's a lack of faith, but I do believe it makes sense for what this Orlando City front office wants to do, which we'll discuss what Ricardo said later on. But the whole reload, not rebuild type of message, right? So you're not gonna see with Coronel, you're probably gonna see something very lateral move-ish from Pedro, but right now with a higher momentum and a little bit of a step up based on age and stats and shot stopping ability, right? So it makes sense. Now, you have to understand, this is a player that's it's playing for one of the top South American teams right now in CONMEBOL, which is Paraguay, which is going to play against the United States. And he is going to go through the World Cup. He's going to be gone. And also, he's going to be gone with his national team when qualifiers start. So Otero is probably going to have a lot of games also to play, you know, this season and next season, I'm sure, for to be under Carlos. Now, it just, again, it's just that message that they're sending: reload, not rebuild. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And well, you know, I think it's fantastic. I think it's great to see that. Now, what I would like also is last season, Orlando City's backline was terrible. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Goalkeepers, right now we're talking a lot of hype about Coronel, and we're making it sound like Coronel Sanders. We're making him sound like he's the next great piece of KFC. But, there's going to be times that, it also depends not just on him. He could stop 5 shots back to back, but then we could lose 4-2 if our back line doesn't pan out and doesn't pull their own weight. So I feel like it's important if we're going to bring not to make the errors of the past, and we need to boost our back line as well. And I think we're working on that. I know that they're going to be working on that for sure. But it's an exciting signing. I think this is the very first knowing MLS proven top 5 goalkeeper in the MLS. So it's a really big splash for Orlando, and I couldn't be any more prouder. So fantastic.
Yeah, and I think there's, the Paraguayans in Orlando are gonna want to come out and see their man. So hopefully, like, I know when we played in town, I've seen a lot of Paraguayans come out to Inter and Co before. So
100%.
I know they live in town. So if you haven't come to Orlando City game, maybe this is, are there any new Paraguayans watching this? If you are, welcome to Orlando City, right?
Right,
I mean, we're talking about like this is a done deal, mainly because Tom Bogert's saying it, and because we know that we're looking at the free agency market, etc. So I'm hopeful this is going to happen. I think also, like you said, Luis, don't underestimate that we're reworking the budget, and the fact that you said you've gone from Pedro, which was $1 million or so guaranteed, and then you're now hopefully going to have Carlos Coronel, who's younger and just as good, and on a lot less money. It really
100%.
helps with that roster flexibility. And I think that's a lot of what we've seen in people's comments, like I saw last week with stuff like Dagger and which I was upset about, and Schlegel, and people are like worried about what's going to happen. But you have to make moves to make moves, right? We can't sit here and demand like we want better players, we want to sign, we want to change the roster.
Well, we want to keep everybody.
And then when they change the roster, people, you know what I mean? So like, you got to let Ricardo cook. He's obviously got a big plan here. We've seen, like, if this is going to happen, then I think that's a great first signing. We're talking about the potential of Otavio. We're talking about the potential of Thiago. Like, if those are your first 3 signings, I think that's a really good move. I think we've done really well if those are our first 3 signings of the window. Not only that, if they happen before the end of the year, that's also more aggressive than we've been in other years. I think usually we're waiting till January before that first signing to come in. So I think it's very exciting, Luis. And I think that we just got to have a little bit of patience. And I always say this in the offseason, but we will say it again. You can't judge this team until really the first game of the season. And even then they have a long time where the window doesn't close. So yes, we want to get the team built and get everything sorted early in the season and have that team ready to go for the first kick. But there might still be some pieces that we're having to add late February, early March as we go into the rest of the season. So I think that we have to understand that the team is not going to be what it is until we're actually starting in the new season. So to kind of judge now is to kind of look at the meal before it's all finished, right? You're kind of maybe
Right.
There's half a plate there and I haven't added the rest of the things. And then when it's all finished with the garnish on top, you're going to go, oh, what a beautiful dish you've made. You can't judge it while it's still being cooked. So we got to give Ricardo time. But I think from what we've seen, it's very positive, Luis.
I think it's a very positive signing. I think the signing of Thiago made news to my other podcast in Peru, because he was being heavily targeted for a lot of top Brazilian clubs as well. And for Orlando to get that level of player, everybody was saying high praise on this kid. A lot is saying that Bahia is being stripped of their best players. Some of them are going to Europe, and some of them are going to the MLS and their best players. So, and they're playing Copa Libertadores next season, and they're literally a B team. People are calling it. They're going to go there just to take pictures. They're not gonna compete. We don't have no good players anymore. Orlando taking one of our best attackers. That's what they're saying over there. So it's important for people to understand, to complement what John was saying. We gotta, you know, I know people want to win now, and I know people have internet, and I know people see what other teams are doing. We are know those teams. We got to understand our market. We have to understand, how we're signing players. And I truly feel like they are trying to build a team to compete. And I would like to see more. I think this is not over. I think there's going to be more signings. And I'm happy. I'm happy for the direction the team is going to and heading at, and I take it with a lot of positivity of what's coming next. So I'm excited for the signing for Carlos Coronel. Welcome, bienvenido, Coronel,
I'm
right?
thinking already, you know how it was the Pedro. Oh, sorry, it was
Everyone's gonna
the
go like,
now it's gonna be like Carlos,
yeah.
Carlos. What's the chant gonna be?
I don't know, but it's gonna be great, man. I can't wait for people, fans to be, putting a smile on people's faces. I think that's the best feeling. And this
Yeah,
is a guy who John just said is MLS ready, MLS experienced. He speaks
plug and
Portuguese
play
'cause he speaks fluent Portuguese, so he's literally Brazilian. He was born in Brazil, but
and Spanish and
and he speaks
English.
Spanish and English, so he's like speaks three languages. And the dude's a workhorse. So just to give a little bit of a parallel, Pedro, since he was in Juan Aurich, if Peruvian people are watching, I'm sure people will remember that name that I just said. He was a very needed goalkeeper, a savior since the very beginning. People had a lot of faith in this kid. He had a lot of buzz, and he was the hopes and dreams of a whole entire national team. You know what I mean? The Sangalese, right? Sangalese, right? Coronel doesn't have this. Coronel has a little bit, and that also makes Pedro think, I'm already a legend in OCSC. I'm a legend in Peru. I have a little bit of a status. I think Coronel is getting to that level with Paraguay. It's not quite there yet because the Paraguayan goalkeeping is very competitive. So at any point, they could say, hey, Coronel, don't come over here. We have a better guy. And he has zero ego. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no a lot of ego from Coronel. That also made him to take this route, because if you think about it, even though New York Rebels did not qualify, they had a very competitive. They're a very competitive organization. They're very well run. They have always really good signings. They have probably one of the best defenses in the East. And leaving that system for Orlando, that is a work in progress, says that he doesn't really care about that. He makes his own path. So it just automatically makes you think this guy's going to be a workhorse, and he's not going to feel some type of way if Otero has to play 5 games back to back because he has to go to Paraguay.
Yeah.
He's going to be willing to work it out. And I feel like that's kind of where we want to go as a team. And I think that benefits the group overall, in my opinion. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I was thinking, and I don't know the answer to this, but I'll try to find out. Did he let his contract run out, like, because he wanted to leave the Red Bulls? Did they not renew him? I don't actually know the reason why that
I
happened,
mean,
but
either.
if
That'll
I'm
be
the
cool.
Red Bulls, why? Like, why did you let him go? I don't understand. Like, there's obviously something here we don't know, and we will try and get to the bottom of. Like I said, if Andrew's available next week, I'll get him on so he can give us a little bit more insight into Carlos and his years playing for the Rebels, because it's not often that we sign a guy from in the league, Luis. So we know what we're dealing with and so the only question I really have is what went wrong at the Red Bulls that has now caused him to be a free agent. But how many clubs do you think we're in for this guy? Like, there's got to be at least 5 or 6 MLS clubs that we're putting bids in for him. So I think great work if we have secured his signature. Great work by Ricardo to sell
100%.
us as the best option for him. And maybe we had to pay him a little bit more, but I think it's worth it. It's going to be less
Yeah.
than Pedro, and he's as good, if
Ready.
not better, than
Yeah.
Pedro. So
Yeah. He's ready to go. So
yeah,
that's the best thing.
plug and play, like you love to say, Luis.
I know, man. It's plug and play, and those are the type of signings that we gotta get. I mean, I know a lot of people drew parallels in 2024 with how LA Galaxy were just from being one of the worst teams coming to win the MLS, and it's because they had a couple of good signings that truly complemented what they already had going. And maybe that takes it for us. You know what I mean? Signing like a Coronel, hopefully adjusting Hack. Maybe a really good right winger, or maybe Thiago explodes. Is the next Brenner. I mean, those are a couple things that we are right now putting our eggs in those baskets of people that are ready to really play and excel, complementing what we already have in the system and the coach that we already have now. There's going to be obviously a lot of fire lit for the management as well, because we also had some changes in the management core, right? So the assistant, the physio, well, I call him the physio, sorry, the one of Oscar's right hand people, the guy who's in charge of all the drills and stuff like that, the physio guy, he's gone. Profe Basan, he's gone. Word on the street was he was going to his brother to Chile. That's what I was informed by the Chilean media, that he was thinking of going to Audax Italiano. But also, there is a rumor that's brewing since yesterday from Caracol in Colombia.
I saw
They
that.
were
Yeah.
they were reporting that he may be going to the Venezuelan national team as one of the assistant managers for the national team of Venezuela under Coach Farias. So obviously, national team versus MLS club. Clearly, he's already kind of known the Venezuelan market. He kind of knows. That's how he met El Profe Baez, which is a goalkeeping coach for Orlando City. So, this was more of like a personal decision of a better opportunity for him. And, again, the club doesn't stand in the way of people that have left their mark in the club. And I think Coach Basan left his mark. Him and his brother left both a great mark in the club's history. And they're tremendous human beings, and I wish him nothing but the best. And again, it's a new dawn, John. I think we're gonna get probably a younger assistant coach, that is going to maybe be a little bit more up to date, kind of less injuries, manage injuries a little better. That's probably where the team is probably going to be heading at after Fabian Basan leaves the club.
Yeah, I mean, Fabian, obviously a face that a lot of fans would see all the time, because he'd be out on the sideline warming up the guys, like at second half, that he'd be standing over there. So he's just a good character around the club, and a guy that has been there a long time under Oscar with his brother, and we're forever a Lion, and sad to see him go, but it's the nature of the beast, like you said, Luis.
No,
So if he's got a better gig, I think that's awesome for him, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Now, there's also people that say, oh my God, something's happening in the Lions. Everybody's leaving. Everybody's unhappy there. No one's unhappy there, dude. I mean, they get paid in dollars, bro. Like, they get paid in
He would
fat
have left
dollars.
a long time ago when his brother left, if he wanted to
Yeah.
go. Like, it's not him and Oscar, I think, had always had a good relationship.
they're all in good standing. They're all friends. Oscar's Coach Basan left because he got a better opportunity to ride solo with Tigres. I mean, come on, Liga MX getting paid all that money in a top club in North America like Tigres that just played the final and lost against Toluca. But either way, and then now going back to Chile, which is where he played as a soccer player, when he was younger. So he knows those markets, and he kind of went to ride solo, and I think that's understandable, right? Same with Coach Basan right now, Fabian Basan. He wants to. If a national team is calling, it's going to be more money. He's going to go there. I mean, it's just. You got to boost your resume, bro. You're not always just going to work at Walmart. You know what I mean? You want to move up. You want to move up from cashier to.
And whoever the new fitness coach is, there's a challenge for you. His name is Luis Muriel.
There you
If you
go.
can make him actually fit enough to run the whole time or motivate him to run, I don't know how you do that. But I think if the new fitness coach can achieve that, then that will be a miracle. So let's see who comes in. I'm sure they've already got somebody lined up on that one, Luis. You want to read some comments?
I'll bring a drill sergeant for sure. Josh Stahl.
Yeah, somebody.
Josh Stahl, and let's go about getting the winger and this goalkeeper. There you go. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Let the good times roll. Work up here. I believe. I believe. There you go. Thank you, sir. 2026 is Muriel's year. Golden boot. What do you think about Ricardo saying we will heavily upgrade our roster? Great get for goalkeeper. Yeah, we'll discuss in just a second. Sandro Graham has been promoted to the role of first team strength and conditioning coach on an interim basis. The club announced this the same day. Well, that's great. I mean, it's a guy who probably knows what's happening right now.
On an interim basis. Okay, so it's not the full job.
No, it's not a full job. No.
Got it.
That's why I didn't post it.
Thank you. Thank you, Doodler. We appreciate that.
Appreciate it, man.
Let's talk about this for a second. I want to give big props to Mike Gramajo. He did a great interview here. If you've not checked it out, go look at it. We're going to be talking about it from there. He interviewed Ricardo, and there were some great quotes in here. A few things that kind of stand out to me. He says, when talking about last season, he said, we had to pull the plug and assess the game with a different view that goes beyond the performance on the field. I'm talking about the locker room. I'm talking about culture. I'm talking about things that somebody new in my position wants to change in the club going forward, and thinking about long-term goals of the team. Luis, what are your thoughts on that comment?
Well, I mean, he wants a winning culture, right? He wants every single person in that locker room to be under the same mindset, no matter who they are, no matter if they've had 120 games with the national team. It don't matter if it's, the guy who played in Atalanta and loves cheeseburgers. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody needs to pull their weight. And because, I mean, the way I see it as a journalist, because I've covered most every game, and what I've noticed and what I've sensed and the vibe I've sent is a lot of S was put in on Oscar, and he was taking the load. He was taking the blame. Yeah, some of them were bad decisions on his behalf. Some of them with some of the decisions, and I mean I can list a bunch of them, but I mean there were also a lot of decisions that were players need to come up and say, hey, I actually want to grab the mic and say, why I did this, right? And there wasn't this, they were passing the hot potato instead of grabbing it and admitting their mistake and going into the press conference. Oscar had to go and just, be that face. I wish I would have seen more of the captain around those press conferences, right? But again, it is what it is. I like that. I think if that's where the club is heading at, I have a lot of hope for that. So it's going to be great.
And on that kind of same note, they were asking about the future, and Ricardo said the expectation I have for this team is to put it in a position to compete for titles, for trophies in every competition, in every season from now on. I am very aggressive in the market, and I think people around here know that. Being the captain of this boat, I think you're going to see more of that, more of this aggressiveness in the market. And that doesn't mean paying more for players, but that means doing what we believe is right for Orlando City to be in a position to compete and win. A lot of people have noticed this word aggressive because he uses it twice. And I think that a lot of the time Orlando City fans might blame our organization from being too passive in the transfer window. So the idea of being aggressive, I think, is something that a lot of people get excited by. We've seen this, right? And it's what we talked about. You're not selling Dagger Dan to Montreal if you don't have a real plan about what you're trying to do in the market. You're not letting Pedro go if you don't have ambitions to replace him with, the idea of Carlos Coronel. We saw, he says it here, doesn't have to be a lot of money, but even the idea of going after somebody like Richarlison that we saw that was potentially going to happen. So there's ambition, there's aggressiveness, there is this idea from Ricardo that he wants to put his stamp on the team, that he wants to make, it look like he wants it. And this is his opportunity to do that. So I think there were some people in this offseason that were questioning whether he was going to come in, this being his first window on his own, completely running the ship, and do that, or whether he was going to kind of take his time. But I kind of expected this, Luis. And I think a lot of people like to hear him talk this way.
100%. But also, I do want to tell people that aggressiveness also has to be with what kind of player fits the culture. I mean, because people think that what, LAFC or Inter or other markets that are twice as bigger in revenue than Orlando, that's the pathway. And it's really not. I mean, it's just being aggressive with the right target. So have the scouting ability of looking at a player and knowing this is a player I can actually invest some money on and just pay, shut up and take my money type of thing, like a Thiago, right? Or like maybe a Luis Otavio or a Cesar Araujo at some point, or a Pasalic, right? And within signing those players as well, they could be busts. We've had a couple of busts, Erjan Kara, Van der Water, we've had those issues. Luis Muriel, that's the latest one, right? That we're still struggling on. But I like the fact that he is going to negotiate. He's going to do what's best for the club, what makes sense culture-wise, and it's going to be a player that's going to have an immediate impact, not to have this long drawn out. Remember that long drawn out process, that that time to gel, that Oscar will mention at some point. He wants to be. That's probably what I take by being way more aggressive and in your face. Not being afraid of sitting in the table with the likes of the Sounders and United that just paid a lot of money for Ty Taribo, or people from the LA Galaxy just getting Glessness. He wants to sit on that table too, and I think that's fantastic for our brand. I think that's fantastic.
He says the expectation is for us to put a star on the crest, and I'm thinking I'm more of a medium long-term position in this organization. I want to do this in 26, 27, and 28. I want to build a strong team for 26, and I already have a plan for 27 and 28, and be smart about some decisions that are going to make the team stronger for the seasons to come. He's calling it the reload, but I like that kind of better than like a rebuild or a restructuring, because
I love it.
We're not necessarily in a bad position overall. Like, yes, the end of last season did not go well, but a lot of that is to do with, we feel, more the players, maybe also Oscar, but he backs Oscar, and he thinks that if Oscar has the right team, we can then look like we did in 24 or 23, where we were, in the top 4 of the league and going deep into the playoffs. That's the idea, that if you reload this team, you can go again. So I like this idea. I think obviously we're moving away from a lot of players. Mike here talking about the 8 players that we parted ways with. So yeah, there's definitely that roster space to go rebuild, and then the ambition to go get the right guys, not just any guys, but the right guys to go. And like you said, Luis, play now, not, I feel like Otavio is a U22 that we can go drop straight in. If you're not, I think 4 million is a lot of money. You're not spending on that on a roster guy. We spent like, what was it, like 1 million on Nico Rodriguez under a U22 deal.
Right.
It hasn't really worked out so far, but they always knew that he was one for like the future. They were like, we're going to invest in him and see, can we turn 1 million into 3 million, et cetera. Right. We've done that, and now we're kind of stepping it up a level. I think we've gone from, we're spending 1 or 2 million to we're spending 3 or 4 million, and then we're going to hope to look to get more money back out of that. Of course, we're not Inter Miami. We're not out here spending 15 million on a player. That's just the reality of the situation. Like, that's not going to change. Ricardo is doing everything he can with what he is given, and people might complain, you want the Wilfs to spend more money. I would say arguably, even if you do have all the money, it doesn't mean it's the right player. I mean, look at Emmanuel Latelat, right? The
Yeah.
perfect example.
Look at
27 million, and he might be a much better player this year or in the future, but to break the record and to fall flat on his ass, there's so many examples of that. So yes, we want to spend money, but I do think we are spending more than we have in the past year on year, and not only on the DPs, but on the rest of the roster as well.
I mean, Wilfried Zaha, that's another example. Wilfried Zaha, people in Charlotte are saying, you got to step it up. And us with Luis Muriel, but again, with Luis Muriel, we also betted on getting one of those kind of, not, I wouldn't say old, but past their prime kind of players to kind of rebuild and start kind of him going back into his old ways and scoring a lot of goals like he did in Atalanta. And again, I feel like it didn't pan out the way the club wanted it to, but I feel like the way what he means is has to be the right type of player, a player that's going to fit our system, a player that's going to be have an immediate impact, and is going to also add up on the depth. Be versatile. A lot of these players are getting signed, play multiple positions. Like Thiago could play striker, could play winger. Same with Otavio, and I'm sure if he gets a center back, more than likely that center back is also going to be able to play multiple positions. So it's also the type of player that Orlando City is going to get. Now, I mean, I don't give a rat's ass what people down south are doing. If you ask me on a personal note, I really don't give two flying Fs. They're talking. You want to know about it. I could tell you. They're talking about Lewandowski. They signed the lousiest, one of the lousiest backs in Spain's history, Reguilon.
He's injury prone as well for that price.
Which is terrible.
Dangerous.
Which is terrible, but
he's a very good player when he's fit. But
again, he played in Real Madrid. I'm like, all right, well, I know a player in Peru that played for Real Madrid under 22s too, and whatever. I mean, the thing is, we should care about what's happening here in Orlando. And I think that he has a plan, and I like what he said. Having a plan for 27 and 28, when also other contracts are set to expire. So that keeps the fire. If you guys want to talk about fire being lit, not only on the manager, but also fire being lit on the squad. To see, hey, I just moved Pedro out of here. That could happen to you too if you don't pull your way. You know what I mean? So I think it's good, the headed path that we're going through.
Yeah, he also talked about the U22 slots, and he says we're actively going to try and fill those U22 spots and bring players that active role or starting job for Orlando City. So, their starting job I think is key, like we said. And then on the free agency, he says we're going to be very active. If we're going to sign players or not, it's up to the soccer gods, but we're exploring free agency heavily. And I think fans and people can expect a couple of good signings, not only free agency, but from other mechanisms that are out there for the winter, ... which will lead us in a minute to our next subject, which is the SuperDraft. But on the free agency, I love that he says up to the soccer gods. I think that's where we're talking about that, like these free agency players, some of them are like absolute. I don't know what is going on this year, but there's diamonds in free agency, like Justin Hack and Carlos Coronel and Benteke and Espinoza, etc. We talked about it. If you've not gone and watched our video that we talked about all the free agents, go check that out. Some of them have signed since we made that video, of course, like Zimmerman, Luis. He's gone to Toronto. But my point being that these guys are so hot commodity that it's like where he says the soccer gods, I think is that sort of like there's 7 or 8 offers for these players from other MLS teams. And it's kind of like, okay, where do you want to live? Because I don't think they're going to be offered a massive amount of difference, right? There might be 100K in it here or there, but they're not getting like double up from one team than they will from another. So a lot of the time it's like, roll the dice, see, does this player want to come live in Orlando? Are they interested in our project? Clearly, or hopefully, it seems to be that the soccer gods are smiling on us when it comes to Carlos Coronel. Is there going to be another from the free agency? I would love a Justin Hack. I would love a Christian Espinoza. We'll see what happens, but a Benteke even. We get very excited about some of these other players. So maybe there's more there. It just depends. As Ricardo says, will the soccer gods smile on us again?
Yeah, who knows? Muriel may be, on his way out of here by all we know as well. I mean, if they're willing to pay, say, hey, Luis, we're gonna give you a milli and a public sub, bro. A chicken tender sub, bro. With we'll put some avocado, some sriracha, bro, some onions. Get you a milli and a public sub, and we'll send you to Junior de Barranquilla. And he might say, hey, you know what? I love public subs, bro. Can you make it 5 public subs? Fuck, we will do it right now. Let me go and put my order in.
I heard Justin Hack's a big Universal fan, just FYI.
Yeah, and yeah.
No, I just made that up.
well, Justin Hack, according to a couple of my friends there in NYCFC, he declined. They tried to sign him, and he didn't like the offer. So he's definitely out of there, and he's looking for options. So hopefully the club is able to lure a player that's going to be able, again, plug and play, right? I think he's definitely a fan favorite. He'll be a fan favorite here for sure.
All right. Another thing that he talks about in this article, Mike had the intelligence to ask him about Alex Freeman, and he gave an answer that's not so obvious, but does, it's not confirmed, but it pretty much leads a certain way. He says, we're super happy with him. He's going to be wearing purple, and we're working to keep Freeman for years to come with Orlando City. And hopefully we're going to be successful in this regard. He's not confirming anything. He's not saying anything is done, but I don't think you talk that way if it's like we're lining up a deal to sell Alex. It seems more like he's gonna sign a deal based on the way that Ricardo has answered this question.
Look, I'm reading it right now. Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, you could
doing the nice answer, like
I just think what he's saying is. What he's saying to the fans, the way I take it is, dudes, just like we just offered 5 public subs to Muriel, bro, we're trying with Freeman, bro. We're doing everything we can with Freeman. But in the end, hopefully he takes the...
I just don't know if you say he's going to be wearing purple. That sounds pretty definitive to me, but maybe we're reading too much.
Well, I mean, he's going to be wearing purple for now. Right now he's on Orlando City.
Maybe he's signing with Fiorentina, and this is just some really clever. No, I'm kidding.
Well, maybe. I mean, it could be. I mean, you never know. But I think
you're going to keep him for years to come. I hope so. Well, I really hope there's a deal.
We're working to keep Freeman for years to come.
Like we said, Alex could sign a 3-year deal and still leave after the World Cup. Like, that's not like the money will be there where we'll be like, yeah, but sure.
It'll be better
in the World Cup. It'll work. So
it could be a deal that says, hey, contingent to the World, I don't know, contingent to the World Cup or something, sign with us. Let us have, a minor stake on a minor fee when you get sold, just do it as a thank you to the club. Yeah. He may be saying, hell no, I don't want it.
He says we've been negotiating, and then again, he uses the, Alex in purple for years to come. So he's dancing around it, but he's not giving us a firm answer.
Right.
He's giving as much as he can, but he definitely says they're in negotiations. So
I think when he says,
it's not like he won't talk to us at all. It does seem like we're still trying to figure out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's pretty much saying, bro, I just sold 2 of my cars to him. I promised him everything. Like, I am trying really hard, bro, to get to have him wear purple forever. But, in the end, we could try and we could do what we want and we can throw everything at him. But if he says no, it's his bid, it's his thing, I don't think the club was ready. And again, this is gonna sound so bad what I'm about to say, but I don't think the club was ready. He was gonna have this big of a rise so soon. Otherwise, you would have had maybe a little bit of a longer. Maybe that wasn't allowed. Again, but you can make that assumption too, right? And so right now they're throwing as much as they want because he's one of. I mean, I've covered the U.S. national team. I could tell you, I've talked to some of the people that work there, people close to Pochettino. Pochettino loves Freeman, bro. I have a feeling Freeman is going to be part of the World Cup team and probably a big protagonist in that squad. Go ahead, man. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think the last thing that was really interesting in here, talking about the academy and what happens there. He's saying that he quote, "For me, a successful season can mean very different things. We're going to aim for the championships, but a successful season could be looking at a player from the academy having 1,500 minutes, 2,000 minutes, 2,500 minutes, and being able to put Orlando City in a position to have more flexibility in the cap if you have players from your academy with good minutes and starting positions in the first team." Luis, correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't we said that like 1,000 times?
120 times, but again,
I like to blow my own horn, but I've definitely told you all that several times. So
we are the goody two shoes.
This is what we're talking about, like the Philly example, right? And I think it's key in MLS that there are so many so many mechanisms and players wanting more and more money that you have to use every single way that you possibly can in order to be able to get the roster to the point that you want it to. And the idea of Colin Gusky, Caraballo, Taifi, Tahiri Brown, et cetera, Alex, obviously, all of these guys, they only count so much in your salary cap, like literally, and they're almost free. They're not free, but they're almost free players in that regard. So the more you can fill out your roster with the more flexibility that has. So it's all about creating that space in the roster, and he's doing a great job at that.
And I think this year is going to be the year in which those contracts will probably extend a little bit longer for those players. You have Taifi doing a tremendous job working off. Like right now, Taifi right now, even though he's with family, he's still working. He's keeping himself in shape. He's eating right. He's physically doing what he needs to do. And he trained with Morenense, which is part of the whole AFC Bournemouth, black group, the black group or something like that. It's called, I believe,
the Black Knight group.
Black Knight, right? Yeah. Black Knight group. So he was in Morenense. He left a lot of really good looks. Like they were like, "Oh, we're gonna be monitoring this kid. Hopefully, for him to come to the Portuguese league." Last year, 2024, it was Tahiri Brown with Colin Gusky doing that, and then I have a feeling this season they're going to be part of actively on part of our depth.
Yeah,
and I think that's what he means. He means it save us space, and these are players that are ready to go. Ready to go, and we're farming our own players, technically, just like every other major club does. We're doing the same thing. And right now, not only they're putting the money into developing wonders for the academy, both Pride and City, but also, having those players alleviating cap space without hurting the in-play product. You know what I mean? So, and these are kids also that are all about the badge, bro. And I think that's one of the most important things, you know what I mean? People that are all about the badge, all about the culture, all about the city. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, especially like the likes of Taifi. I mean, we've watched him through all the years, I remember stuff like talking about Taifi when he was playing for like the U17s, like the U16s, the U15s. So, same with Alex, same with a lot of these characters. So it's exciting to see. Luis, let's read some comments before we continue on.
Yeah, Landon says Angulo needs to be sold. There you go, my friend Landon. What's up, my friend? Good to see you.
R.I.P. Angulo.
Mr. Doodler, thank you so much, my friend David. It says Lewis has me hungry now after the sub combo. Yeah, man, I miss public subs. Even though I do have a Publix right here, but they
What do you
don't.
mean? You still live in Florida? You get like a pub
Yeah,
sub
but it's
whenever you
different
want.
from getting it from the downtown Orlando Publix. If you're in
You like
downtown or
the one at Lake Eola? That was your pub sub
no,
stop?
the original Publix, the one in
Where was
downtown.
that one? I don't
It's
remember
the very
that.
first Publix that opened up, I
That was
believe.
pre my arrival to Orlando. So that's
Yeah,
you've out. I remember Pita Pit. That was my spot
yeah.
back in the day.
Fit Up, it was great. Yeah, I don't know if this.
I'm actually currently working downtown for a project, so I'm having to like go out for lunch, and like I'm having flashbacks of like 10 years ago when I used to work downtown, and like when I used to go on my bike from Orlando City and go, go get lunch downtown. So,
Yeah, the
yeah,
pita hot, the vegan hot dog guy. I used to buy. I mean, I'm not vegan, but that guy had the best hot dogs, and they were vegan hot dogs, man. Amazing. But that's another
shout
story.
out to Latin Square downtown. If
Yeah.
you know that place is legit.
Salty H2O. Hey, guy, vamos. There you go, my friend. Appreciate you. It says Maureen, Miss Maureen. Thank you so much. Freeman, I will hope to have till the World Cup, but if he wants to leave because he wants to experience Europe, if he wants to leave because he wants to experience Europe, just hopefully it is while he's under contract, but with a good fit in Europe. Yeah, I mean, we don't want it to be another Chris Mueller, right? He'll write another book. Landon says, "Good to see y'all. Love the content during the off season." That's how. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
Good to see you too, Landon.
Good to see you, my friend. Yeah. It says,
All right.
do you think we need a left back midfielder and a center back right, possibly striker? Yeah, we'll discuss in just a second. But you're completely right.
We got to do a shopping list at some point.
Yeah.
To continue on here, Ricardo talking about his relationship with Oscar and how that's changed. He said, "It's just a different relationship than we had before. I'm a different person than my predecessor, and we have different goals. We have different views. We try to align in the best way possible to benefit the team." So obviously, I don't think there's any issues there, but he's just talking like that relationship will change. Like
no strings attached.
There was a Luis Muzi between them, right? And now there's none of that. So
yeah, there's no strings attached. Pretty much what he just said there.
Yeah, and the training wheels are off, right? There's no safety guard if you have your mentor
100%.
there anymore for Moreira. So he knows that. He knows that he's got to be the one to lead the situation.
We want to win now.
Yeah, and he also said about the calendar change that's coming up. He says we're going to be in position where we're going to be able to find more opportunities in the European markets to bring players in after European seasons are over in May. And we're going to be more active in the marketing and the selling side of the business. He also said that the priority for us as a front office, as a soccer operation and ownership as well, is we care about the results on the field first. We care about the team first. So in the last couple of seasons, we've been refusing good offers for our players just because we want to keep competing and we want to keep this strong group enough to be able to go in and win titles. So like we've said before on the calendar situation, like I know everyone was really upset about the Ramiro sale, but how many other of those that would have come in the summer for like Ojeda and whoever else and these guys, and we refused them and we didn't let it happen and we didn't take those money, right? When this all happens and then Ricardo is able to be like every other GM in Europe and make all of his deals in the summer like everybody else does, he's then going to be able to cook on a global market scale. Right now, he's only able to do what he does. And that's why I think we keep going back to the South American well, is because at this time of year, it feeds us, right? I don't think there's a lot in the European well right now. Like if there is, it's like a Daggy or like a Brecalo. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, that's what we've seen. So I really feel like Ricardo, once this changes,
100%.
He's probably got a lot of guys in Europe that he's like, oh, I want to sign this guy, but I'm not going to do it now because we're going to get screwed. But that's what he's talking about, 27, 28. He's planning for this change and who he's going to go get once we make this big calendar change.
Per sources, I've been told that they're heavily looking to the Black Knight partnership.
Oh yeah, please.
So they got
great scouting network.
We're going to be looking at that scouting network. And again, it's about what player comes
We'll
here.
share information as a part of the
Right.
partnership with them.
And there is already players in the championship interested in coming down here. There's already players from the MLS from in the Orlando City squad that are looking into this partnership and say, hey, you know, if I do a great job, maybe I'll end up in the championship to go into the Premier League. You know, so we're gonna be using that groundwork Musi left. He's picking up the ball, and that's the reason why him and Oscar travel to Europe as well. To just kind of touch base with that relationship, and I think that's fantastic. Now, they want to compete, and they want to also make sure that we keep some of the players to compete and strong enough. But also, when there's a good offer, so let's say, for example, Levante or from the Spanish league wants to get Marco Pasalic for 20 million. Take it or leave it. You know what I mean? At that point, you have to have trust and build a system that the guy that's behind Pasalic is able to pick up the ball and run with it. And with 20 million, you can just get, for example, Jack Grealish that's all depressed in Everton. I saw the last Everton match that they played in the Premier League this weekend. The dude looks so depressed, and bro, you gotta cut your long hair. Does not suit you, my friend. You look like my tia, bro. You look like my aunt. I'm telling you, bro. You need to cut your hair. Jack Grealish looks so depressed. We know those 20 million we could be put on into getting somebody like Jack Grealish, right? So it is important for us to be afraid of also selling our players. Now, there's another thing what Philly just did, which is sell all their players instead of right and sell other. You also don't want to get to that level.
Philly let go of Taribo because they won't pay him. We don't do that. Like, we're not letting go of our best players because we're not willing to pay them. You don't see that.
Yeah. So I think we're onto something, and I think it's very promising. I know a lot of fans want to lift the cup right now, and we may next season. We don't know, but this was a phenomenal interview with Mike Ramajo. I'm gonna have to, bro, Mike. Good job, my friend. Buen trabajo.
Yes, indeed. If you've not read the whole thing, we just pulled some out of it, but go check it out on Wesh or on Mike's Twitter or Instagram. Luis, let's read a few more comments, and then let's read some comments from the hot takes videos.
Yeah, hold on. Chacha Sly. Thank you, Chacha Sly. Appreciate you. I will all I want for Christmas is back. There you go. In center back. There you go.
We're gonna, they're gonna flag us for that. They're gonna be like Mariah Carey video.
There you go. So let's read some of the comments for the post that we did. So we have a couple of comments.
I want to say thank you to everybody who watched our shorter content videos that came out this weekend. If you've not done so, there's 3 up there. We talked about the signings that are coming in. Potentially, we talked about Dagger. We talked about Schlegel. We talked about the free agency. So go check those out there. Shorter forms of recorded content.
So right now I have, we'll have somebody just deleted theirs. Okay, we have one right here. It says, on Facebook, Chad Elders. It says, heard from sources, a lot of unrest in the locker room with the non-South American players. Hence, departures of Dagger Dan so unexpected. And now the assistant head coach. Oscar has lost the plot. What are your takes on that, John? Do you think he's lost the plot?
I don't think so. No, I don't quite agree with that one. I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I really don't.
I think clearly there was something going on with the players, but it seems like Ricardo feels like it was more the players than Oscar, and that's why he's backing Oscar and reloading. If he really felt like it was Oscar, I think he would push to be like, let's move on from this guy. So yeah, I don't think there's behind the scenes terribleness. I think the last year didn't go how we wanted, but from what we can tell, it was more about, the culture, like Ricardo saying in this interview, that wasn't right, and he wants to fix that, and he doesn't feel like that's Oscar.
No complacency, pretty much what he's trying to say. I mean, what Ricardo, what I can take from Ricardo, no complacency in the event of, oh, okay, we lost, hey, Oscar, go take the interview. Like, it's just like pull your own weight too, take that responsibility, and we all need to be in the same page. And again, I think this also applies to Oscar, because if Oscar, for example, bombs this year, let's say, for example, Oscar loses the first 7 games in the season, I mean, he's gonna be on,
Yeah.
that complacency. If it goes against the new values and the new culture that he's trying to,
I
make.
like to think that if we had such a bad start to the season where we were like playoffs were looking out of sight and it was halfway through the year and Ricardo feels like he's built a team that should be much better than this, then that's where your GM steps up and says, this team is
Right,
better than what the coach is doing. I need to get rid of the coach because this team
100%.
can outperform what we're doing in the moment. So that's definitely going to happen.
And
And
it's
I think it will
soccer.
be well within his rights. I don't think that will happen. I think more likely we'll be, like somewhere around there, and then we'll figure it out or something. But we've never had a year under Oscar that was so terrible that you had to write it off halfway through. I know people want to, but like statistically, we've never been that bad by the end of the year.
About 90 people live. Thank you for your support. Jose Roberto Castillo, he says, why are they selling players that have done a good job on behalf of the club? Are they needing cash to continue operating? And Schlegel now is also leaving. I continue. They better come up with good signings to replace Galese, Schlegel, and Enrique. Also, there is a bid of 6 million circulating for Ojeda, which most likely they will take, and then get another Muriel for 2 million.
No.
That's how this club operated, and will never amount to much. It's just another tax write-off for the Wills. Contrary to the team that our rivals down south are building.
Well, I think we've talked a lot about in this, like reloading the players. You got to move players
Here.
on. You got to change players. Yeah, and I think that there's always going to be people that they're just negative because they don't think we spend enough. They don't think we do enough. I say that you got to look at the results on the field. Yeah, like we haven't won the thing yet, but arguably it has been getting better. Last year was a step backwards. You got to look at the positives. You got to have some, faith and hope that they're doing the right things. I mean, there's only one team that wins it every year, and we're still not that team, but that doesn't mean we can't be that team. And I don't think that, just saying we're never going to do it and that we don't have any ambition, et cetera, is true. I think it needs to be a bit more level-headedness than that.
I'm sure there's been some bids for Ojeda. I'm sure it's been some bids for so many players of ours. But it depends also on what Orlando City wants to do. I just would like to know, Jose Roberto Castillo, Cubano. I just want to know, my friend, where do you get your crystal ball, my friend? I would like to buy one. I will love it, because I don't know. I mean, you say a lot of stuff that they will get another Muriel. I mean, I understand the frustration. I just feel like it's a lot of guessing. And again, on a personal level, I really don't care what Inter does. I respect them. I mean, they're the current champions. Good for them. I don't, as a journalist, I do my journalistic duty to report on what I got to do, but I'm not here to, I don't make the decisions at Orlando City. And also, I have friends. Say hello to my friend Franco Panizo. And I have friends that cover Inter Miami that I care a lot about and I respect. I really don't care what they do down there. We cover Orlando City, so we'll leave it like that. We have, let me see another one. Those are the only two I saw on Facebook. Let me see if I have some in. We have some on X. Right here on. We have a comment. We have a comment on Instagram from AI Dan. It says, "Guys, Benteke in, Muriel out."
That I 100% on board. Where can I sign up for that, please?
100%. Then we have on X, I think another comment. Let me just double check here. And thank you for your support. Thank you to everybody that's watching. We have a couple of retweets here.
I got some on YouTube.
Okay, you got some? Okay. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Can you read those?
So FLA Doodler 18,
there
I
you
know
go,
he's
Douglas.
in the chat. He said on one of our videos, so to look at the more positive side, that's a great amount of GAM to help rebuild this team. Also, let Nico play back in South America, get his boots right. If you want to take a loan with an option to buy, great start by getting Otavio and Thiago, but we got to keep building and bolster that back line. Curious to see if free agency play out and the draft next week. So I think Doodler feeling fairly positive. I think we talked about the Nico Rodriguez situation on that particular episode. Another one from Cha-Cha Slide. He's saying, I wouldn't be surprised to see some left back Angulo minutes in preseason. I think that's a pretty accurate comment because we're light in left back. A few other things. Salty H2O is saying team is looking rough at the moment. So I don't think you're wrong, Salty, but like we said, it's a work in progress. So yes, like we're missing some pieces. We got to figure out some stuff. But like you said, at the moment being key, let's wait and see what happens with all these new signings and where we look and what kind of roster depth we really need by the start of the season.
100%. I mean, those great comments by David, Florida Doodler. Appreciate you, my friend. Ruben Paris also on YouTube says great signings for Orlando City. So thank you, Ruben, for that. Also, Vinco Ramos says good luck to the Orlando City team. Greetings from Peru. There you go. So thank you for that. And I believe we have a couple of more. We have more actually. Frankie Cosmos says, "I know these videos were all recorded earlier in the week." Thank you, Frankie. You're spot on. But Zimmerman has already stated that he'd be signing with Toronto. Yeah, man, I started crying. One tear right here. And Rothrock is supposedly close to signing with San Jose. All right.
That's sad.
Well, he wants to go to San Jose.
Rothrock.
Oh,
I mean, he's probably gonna be a starter probably for them.
Yeah, probably. I'm really just hoping they have a plan to spend all this cap space they're creating, and it's not just the Wolves counterbalancing their portfolio for the declining market. Yeah, so
this is not going to counterbalance the almost $1 billion they're spending on the new training facility out in Osceola. This is not going to counterbalance the $400 million they spent to buy the team in the first place. I think people have to understand this idea that you're like the Wilfs are trying to get their money out. They're not going to get their money out of soccer for a very, very, very long time. They've spent like a lot, like 500 millions of pounds. Look how many
they're putting into
millions
the
of dollars they spend on players each season. It costs like $3 million or so just to keep the lights on in Orlando City, just to run the club every year, regardless of, players, etc. So I think this idea of like, we're not going to spend the 500 GAM and recoup, like the Wills are going to take their money back. It just doesn't add up. Like, I'm not an accountant, but I can tell you that the investment pile is far higher than the, how much have we got out of this? We've talked about this before. A lot of these MLS owners are owning MLS clubs because eventually they see that maybe one day they're going to get this big payout where we get big, TV deal, and then we're really starting to make money. But it's quite common in soccer teams across the world that a lot of them don't make money, and the owners are not in it to make money.
And then we have also last comment, Cha-Cha Slide says, I've watched a lot of Rothrock's games, and he is for sure a fighter. He is, however, very much a winger, and we're pretty stacked there. I've also heard he's asking for 800K, but we do need to find someone who can sub in for Martin, and he defiantly wouldn't be a letdown. I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think Rothrock, I mean, I would have made him if it was me. I would have had him on the
Yeah.
tackle here. I mean, he's and uh, and as people say, Angula would have been my person that I would have been like, yo, bro, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but
I think like we talked
I'm gonna
about,
trade
like
you
I
to
was
Houston so you can join Junior Russo.
he wasn't really the idea of a backup center attacking mid. He was just another attacking mid. But I do think that we do need somebody who can do what Ojeda does. Like if he gets injured throughout the season, like who is going to play there?
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of people may say Atuesta, right? But I mean, again, it's we need to be. I think in this league that's growing that's such a physical league compared to others, we need depth and we need immediate depth because teams every year, guys, MLS teams in differently than, for example, my country, like in Peru, for example, only a few teams really like get really quality players. Here in the MLS, everybody gets quality, a lot of quality. A lot of the teams in the East are going to boost up. Some of them are going to go down. Some are going to improve their level of play, and we just got to be up with the times. That's why the culture changing and the players that make the immediate impact are important, and be able to have that depth that's complemented by our academy. So I think we're on the right path. So thank you guys for your comments. Anything else you want to add, John?
No, I do want to say that I was going to talk today about the super draft. I think because we talked about a lot of other stuff. I want to wait and we'll talk about that later in the week because it's going to happen
Yeah.
like a few days from now, so we'll know.
Yeah, we'll probably do a hot takes.
But I think that one of the things Ricardo was talking about in the Mike Maho interview, hinting at the other mechanisms that were available to us. We've got we traded with Dagger Down. We've got several first round picks, so it's going to be interesting. We're going to look out and see who's the highest rated, options out on the super draft. And I feel like a defender, a center back, or a fullback, or a D mid, even a backup center attacking mid. We've gotten a lot of good guys out of the super draft. So I feel like there's an option to get one or two here, Luis, that could be good backup or rotation options. So I think we got to watch that this week and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna boost OCB with some of those picks, and OCB
Yeah,
also wants
some of them will be OCB.
some will be OCB, and I personally would like to see the kids that are ready now from the depth chart of last year. So the Taifis need to have important minutes, the Guskies, the Carvalhos. Like I want to see those kids like the Tairi Browns, hopefully, I would like to see them more in the first team, having way more minutes in the first team squad than OCB, and then bring the Seguras, the under 16th, number 9, come in and bring him into OCB. You know what I mean? Like and that's how your pipeline starts developing. And I think that's going to be fantastic. So, and good news, the pitch, new grass.
Yes, indeed. I want to say hello to Bethel
Bethel
Farms,
Farms.
who are the sod company that posted this. So y'all are awesome because the club didn't post this. But thank you for sending us pictures of the grass. So here it is being installed. I'll pull these up. This was it. You can see they got the sand underneath. You can see the rolls of new turf going out. There it is, all finished, getting that first water, brand new grass out on the field. It is the newly installed Bimini Bermuda grass. So I don't know. I think Bimini must be the manufacturer. I
Yeah.
think it's probably, we can go look up all this information on the new type of grass that we've got here at the stadium. But just to follow up on what we talked about before, great to see that it's going to be a new field out there.
Yeah, Bimini Bermuda grass. I actually did my homework here. I'm going to read it. It says superior durability, traffic tolerance, and excellent weather color retention. Outperforming,
Traffic tolerance sounds perfect.
yep, outperforming older varieties like the Tifway by staying green longer in fall and greening up faster in spring. Uh, home owners love its dark green, dense, fine textured turf that handles heavy play, offers good shade tolerance, and requires relatively low maintenance with less thatch. It establishes quickly, resists pest, disease, and is ideal for soccer and other activities, especially in sports. So it's a grass that it is pretty much um, the best kind when it comes to turf. So that's what Orlando's getting, top notch.
Very exciting. A brand new turf fields. One last thing I want to talk about before we head out of here.
Oh yeah, I wanted
Uh,
to touch
a
on that
good
too.
friend of ours, Taylor Williams. Let's say big congratulations to him and his wife Christy, as they are going to be having a baby together. And he has sadly announced that he will not like 100% be stepping down from Orlando City, UK, but kind of taking less of a role as he becomes a new father and has less time in his life to be able to cover Orlando City. But he is a guy that has been covering the league and our team for over 10 years. We've had him on the pod several times for preseason and postseason stuff. So we'll see if he still wants to do that. Hopefully he will be available once or twice a year to join us on here. But if you've not done so, go ahead over to his website, read the great article that he put out here. Kind of, it's a very emotional read, I think. So if you know Taylor well, go read this. It's kind of like his farewell letter to all of the fans as he's kind of stepping down from Orlando City, UK full time.
Yeah, I mean, a great guy. I didn't get to meet him in person, but
He'll
definitely.
come for a game at some point, and we'll connect.
Yeah, we should go
Sure.
take him for a couple of brewskis. But definitely a gentleman. Great content, always about very positive, very down to earth. He'll make friends everywhere he goes. So very likable, great personality, and again, the content speaks for itself. He's definitely going to be surely missed. We hope as content creators just like him to hopefully also continue, and he's definitely been a big inspiration as well for a lot of content creators like ourselves, a lot of the impact he's made. So it's definitely a pleasure to have him here in the pod, and I know that he's just going to be stepping away for a while because obviously of his baby, and is understandable. As a family man, I totally understand, but uh, I'm sure he'll be back, and he's going to be back better than ever. And he's always going to be checking out Orlando City and Orlando Pride. And again, I'm just happy for him and his family, his beautiful wife, and he's going to have a beautiful family. He's going to be a great dad, I know for a fact. And I wish him nothing but the best, my friend. Thank you for everything you do. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Taylor. We appreciate you, man. I think that's everything we
Yeah.
want to talk about today on the Orlando City pod. Of course, the Super Draft is coming up. We'll be back later this week, or definitely on Monday, to talk all about that. So look out for more on the Super Draft to come.
For sure. Landon says, speaking of my boy Rodri, I hope he doesn't leave. Well, it looks like that might be announced in the next few days.
I mean, there could be a lot of news this week, right? Carlos Coronel, Otavio, It might be next week. It might be January.
Thiago.
We don't know. But the pipeline of information, if Dagger is the first one to fall, there's a lot of ins and outs that will be announced in the coming weeks.
Maybe we should be the next ones interviewing Ricardo Moreira. I'm going to have to make some phone calls.
We'll see if we can get him once he's done his business in the beginning of the season. We'll see if we can get him on the pod for, like we did with Haley Carter in the Pride.
Yeah,
we'll see if we'll get an episode with him.
Yeah. So thank you guys for your support. About 90 people live right now. Thank you a lot for all your support. We'll continue. We'll be back. Probably another hot takes coming up this week. If there's a lot of news, we may have some of those. If you leave a comment on our pre-recorded footage and videos and content, please leave a comment just like the other fans did, and we'll reach you live on Monday. We thank you for your support. Thank you, John. Thanks to everybody that watched. And again, we'll see you guys. And vamos, Orlando.
Thank you, guys. Vamos, Orlando.
Stick around for the Pride Pod coming up next. Thank you so much.